This is the multi-skill development course. And around the first three on life skills, one on the social networks, and one on this search engine optimization, as well as live workshop on Bhangra. To be on the lighter side, we have already conducted, I think, 3 to 4 multi-skill disciplinary skill development courses, and this is fifth in the series, mobile application development. And when we were considering this, I think definitely in today's session, and in case if the second session, if need be, to be conducted for the same, and Daljit Singh Matharu, our senior faculty in case of IT and engineering, he is going to cover a lot of stuff like what is Android, history of Android, Android architecture, downloading and installing Android Studio, working with Android Studio, control your Android from your PC, installing Android debug bridge, activity lifecycle, building a UI with layout editor, intent, creating an alert, web view, practical session. So this topic, which is including the app development for Android, iOS, Windows Phone, and using Java only, all these content to be covered by Daljit Matharu. So my sincere wishes and blessings from the Almighty to Daljit as well as all the attendees. And I am quite optimistic in regard to this, ki all will be gaining something out of it when we are going seriously something, reason being the requirement and the demand of the environment. It is what we are doing apart from the curriculum. I mean to say, whatever the syllabus it is being fixed for any of the course, that may be the BTech, that may be the BCA, that may be the MCA, that may be any other program like MBA, BBA, BCom, honors, etc. But what else means, what apart from the curriculum, whatever the syllabus which is prescribed by the university, what else, what extra we will be doing, that will matter a lot. And my dear students, let me tell this, that extra will give a extra milestone to all of you from the rest of the world. So this will be basically a mool mantra for future success. You are having your speed different from all other from the rest of the world. And my advice is to attend it seriously, but hesitation should not be there. Once you are not able to understand any of the point, any of the query, you can raise it later on. You can have discussions with your faculty members, with the expert as well. And around 12, 13 teachers are available with all of you with regard to IT and engineering, and all are wonderful faculty, and encouraging all of you to raise a lot of queries that will be really going to be useful for all of you. Thank you so much. Daljit, thank you so much. And once again, my apologies for joining late. So delayed by 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. So, dear learners, we are going to cover in today's MSDC, which is a multidisciplinary skill development course. This time we have selected the topic is mobile application development for beginners. As sir have briefed out, I'm going to again repeat the topics that we are going to cover today. We are going to cover today on what is Android, what is the history of Android, means the different flavors of Android. Then we are covering Android architecture, downloading and installing the Android Studio, which is an IDE for developing mobile applications. Then we will be talking about working with Android Studio, how we can build a basic application. Then we will be covering how we can control your mobile from your PC, how we are going to mirror your mobile phone into your PC so that you can get control over your device from the PC itself, from the desktop or laptop itself. Then we are going to cover a basic drivers which we need to install in order to make the communication between the mobile and your laptop feasible. Then we're talking about the activity lifecycle, building UI using Android. Obviously, Android Studio, it consists of one layout editor. We're talking about that. We'll be talking about the concept of intent. We'll be talking about other concepts which include how to create an alert box, how to create a web view, and finally we will be looking for the practical session. Okay, let's start. Obviously, the things are a bit technical. I will assume that you have a basic idea of what a programming language is, what a computer is, but I will try to keep the things as simple as possible. So starting with, I'm making the screen full visible to you all. So I assume the entire screen is visible to you all. Okay. So starting with the first thing first, what is Android? So if we define an Android, we all know that Android is one of the popular mobile operating system which is used on the devices, mobile devices. And if you look at the share of the Android in the entire mobile devices community, we find that more than 72% people are using the Android devices, whereas a hike is seen in the iOS device users. Earlier it was less than 20, but it is 26.47%. So these are the two leaders in the mobile market. So now when we think about the Android versions, we used to say, I have Android Lollipop, one says I have Android Marshmallow, I have Android Nougat, what these Android versions are. So the Android versions are released in alphabetical order, mostly with the name of the deserts. Okay, you might have noticed this. We'll cover about them one by one. But before that, let's think of what an Android is. Who is the father of Android? When we start with the story starts in 2003. We had a person named Andy Rubin. Andy Rubin, a person who's, to some people call him Android as well. So he started with the project. He was looking for developing an operating system, and he was looking for developing operating system for digital cameras initially. But later on, he realized that the more potential is with the mobile devices. He shifted the attention towards mobile devices. He started building an operating system, but he incurred a huge loss. Later on, he sold his company, Android, to the Google in 2005. And later on, Google acquired it. Rather, not only Google, rather it is the OHA who acquired this Android. When I think what an OHA is, this is an open handset alliance. What an open handset alliance is, it is a consortium of several companies. It includes Samsung, eBay, Google is basically the leader. So you can see I have included the logo of the different companies which were part of the OHA. So this OHA in entirety is basically a team which is behind leading the Android. Okay. So whatever is happening in the Android, they are supporting in their devices as well. Then going ahead, looking at the history of Android, what we see as, just a minute. Yeah. I'm seeing this. So if we look at the history of the Android, then we find that the Android nowadays, we are with Android 11, we have Android 10. Before that, we see something like the desert names like Lollipop, Marshmallow, Jelly Bean, what all this is. If we start with the history of Android, initially the Android 1.0, 1.1, they were in the development stage. They were the beta releases. They were not officially announced. Although in September 23, 2008, when Google acquired Android, they started building on Android applications, but officially they launched it in 2009. So they came up with a variant known as Cupcake, which is character C. And remember, in parallel, I'm talking like writing in bracket API, API 3, API 2, API 5. What this is basically, it's an application programming interface which includes all those classes, packages, interfaces, and enumerations which are required in order to build an application. This is the language level support. Okay, so when we look at the Cupcake introduced in 2009, I have elaborated this. I will be sharing this presentation with you people. So I will not be going into much theoretical details, but when I see Android 11 device today, I find a number of features, but those features are not only coming, you can say they are coming with time. Initially, we were not having all the features. If we go back by 10 years, 5 years, we were having the devices which were having very limited functionality. So it is how Android over the period of time has improved upon their variants. For example, if we talk about Cupcake, go back into year 2009. So it was a time when this auto rotate feature was introduced. It started supporting virtual keyboards. If I go back further in the donut, which is D donut, and then VGA, WVGA support was there, and deleting multiple photos were there. Similarly, if we go ahead, we have a clear variant, which was especially supporting Bluetooth features, supporting Google Maps, live wallpapers were there. Earlier, it was not there. So we had some devices like Motorola Droid, which came into market with along with built-in support for the Eclair operating system, which is an Android variant. And if you see on the top right side, we have some layout, which means the how the devices look like. If you recall, especially the people who are using mobile from the last 5 to you can say 10 years, they might have noticed that how the display of their Android devices have improved. So if you see this picture of a mobile, you might have noticed that when you were in 2010-11, you had an Android device whose interface looks like something this. Going ahead, so we have Android Frio. Frio, again, it was having the flash port, Wi-Fi hotspots, support for HD display. And then further going ahead, we have Gingerbread. Especially this is the time when basically the multiple users had started opting for the Android. It was a time when we had a number of people who were having the devices, because earlier these smartphones was not everybody's cup of tea rather. Okay, so it was a time when the people started purchasing the phones, they started opting for the smartphones. So obviously the Samsung was king at that time. Although we had some devices from the Google along the collaboration with the Samsung as, so Nexus S was the first device with the Gingerbread, improving over the power, improving over the UI, improving over the camera, improving over the other qualities was always there. Okay, if we go ahead further, it was a Honeycomb, which was API 11. What are API 11? We will come to know again a bit later when you will be building an application with the Android. Okay, then definitely we will be looking for what an API mean, why we need this API level. Okay, so at this layer, when Honeycomb was in the market, some tablets, multi-core processor support was there from the mobile Android, obviously Android variant. Then we have ICS, which is ice cream sandwich variant. Again, stands for I. If I go alphabetically, C was for cupcake, D for donut, E for eclair, E, and then F for fry, G for gingerbread, H for honeycomb. Like so, we have I for ice cream sandwich. Again, this variant is supported with photo editing features, and it has improved over the, you can say, lapses which were there in videos and cameras. So if you go ahead with the Jelly Bean, Jelly Bean was one of the popular Android variant, especially 4.1, although some minor upgrades were there like 4.2, 4.3, 4.3.1, which had some features like it started supporting the 4K resolution, and the UI improved, you can say, tremendously. We had the support for Bluetooth for joystick as well. So if we go ahead with this line, along the same line, we had KitKat, which was again further for Google Watch especially. So we had improved the UI for Google Maps. this is just a history. This is a theoretical part. Okay, so still we will be having some concepts to obviously learn, and at the same time to remind about the life and evolution of Android. Okay, so we go ahead with the Android Lollipop. Coming to 2014 year, when we had 64-bit mobile processors, and the support was there, and the support was 15 new languages like Malayalam, Talam, Telugu, Kannada, Talim, even some of the international languages support was there, and HD voice call was there. This Lollipop was a revolutionary variant from Android, because it started giving us devices which were supporting the 4G networks as well. Okay, so if we go further, then we find L, then followed by M, Marshmallow. Again, this Marshmallow was again an update from the Android, which started supporting for this Type-C USB cable, because obviously it was improving the, you can say, charging abilities. It was improving the, you can say, interface in context to do not disturb options. These do not disturb options were added. Okay, operating system was able to differentiate among the users that which are to be fallen in the category of spams, like so. Okay, so we have Nougat, which was having the feature for splitting screen, multi-screen, 3D rendering, and virtualization abilities, gesture abilities. Okay, so then we go with the Android P, obviously Pi, which is again improving a lot in gestures, improving in terms of do not disturb abilities modes. Okay, so then we have Android 29. I am again API 29, which is Android 10. 2019, again the focus was again on Wi-Fi support, foldable devices. Foldable devices is again upcoming nature of devices, which was supported by Android 10 only. Okay, and subsequent versions, obviously Android 11, which is the latest one, released in 2020. We have chat bubbles, we have notification, we have improved, you can say, readiness for 5G domains. So we have improved on do not disturb DNDs. We have again in context to Bluetooth and so many. So Android next series is Android 12, API 31, which will be coming soon. See, one change is there. You might have noticed that up to Android 9, we had the alphabetic naming conventions C, D, E up to P. But from Q onwards, Android stopped with the convention of giving their variant names with the digits, because there was an argument that some of the desert names are local to a particular, you can say, region in the world. Okay, they are not popular worldwide. So that's why the Google stopped with the convention of giving device as desert names. Rather, from 9 onwards, rather from 10 onwards, they started with Android 10, Android 11, Android 12, and so on. So we are now having the upgrades for most of the devices available for Android 11, which is API 30. And when I say API 30, definitely when we will be building the app in the Android Studio, obviously the ID, we will be using this API 30 as well. Going ahead with the, see, these are some theoretical perspectives we need to know about the Android. This is the prerequisite. If I say this is very required, okay, once you have an idea about all this, then it becomes easy for us to start building the applications in the Android. Okay, so now if we look at the Android architecture, see, this is how the Android architecture looks like. Maybe seeming to some of the people that what it is seems to be very complex, but no worries. Okay, this is just a layered view. When as a student of IT, we learn about any operating system, What an operating system is, for a layman perspective, it is an interface between the user and the hardware. When I say user, it means we are coming to the upper section. When we say hardware, it is coming at the bottom section. So Android is also a Linux based operating system, although we can still run Android applications on a window based machine by using the concept of virtualization, emulation, emulators, etc. At the top, if I see here, we have the concept of the first layer, which is covering the applications, second layer, which is covering the application framework, the third layer, which is covering library and the Android runtime. What this Android runtimes, that is basically again something which is there in the Android, which is supporting from the operating system side, especially for you can say the Android devices. But certain libraries are there. Then at the bottom, we have a Linux kernel. We will learn all this stuff one by one. It is specific. Just go through, have an idea, and then we'll cover all these concepts one by one. Let's talk about application first. When I say application, so it is the top layer of the Android software stack, which includes all the pre-installed applications which are bundled when we purchase a new mobile phone, along with some third-party applications which we install from the Google Play Store, like WhatsApp, Facebook, any game, may it be Angry Words or something like that. They are installed on this layer only. That is the top layer, which is an application layer. So if you look at this, this is the entire stack, software stack for the Android, and this one is the basic first layer, which is an application layer. So we are talking about this first layer, the application layer, where our applications are running. In order to run the applications, we need the support from obviously Android runtime, and these services are provided by the application framework. What this application framework is, we are coming to that as well. So second layer is the application framework. When I say application framework, so at the top layer we say apps. Basically, obviously, that's kind of a application software, just like an application software normal operating system. Similarly, we have the applications which are at the top layer, whereby we have all the apps which are built in, plus all the apps which we are have installed from the Google Play Store. So all as a bundle is your application. Then comes, we go bit down. We come at the second layer of the Android architecture. When we say a second layer, definitely it means that we are talking about something which is there in Android. We have a framework. So when I say framework, it means that most of the applications at the language level are getting support, and that support is how we are building up an Android application. We have different kind of features in this category. If you look at the diagram, we feel that we have activity manager, window manager, you can say we have a content manager provider, we have a view system, package manager, etc. Let's have a look at them one by one. To be briefing, like a view system, when we are building an application, we are building an app. How the app will look like? We have a view system which is responsible for creating the UI, user interface, for an app. And this user interface can be created through lists, through grids, through text boxes, through buttons, through inbuilt web browser abilities. So we need basically certain components which should be, obviously, when we will be building, we will definitely be dragging and dropping and all this stuff. It means somehow Android is providing us, obviously through some IDs, it is providing us with a view system which is responsible for creating the UI for your application. Then it is also having one component which is called content provider. When I say content provider, it means what? if you have an application, you're looking for what? You're looking for some data, and that data can be received from some other application. That data may be received from the users or from other devices. That is enabled through content provider. So we have the concept of resource manager. In context to Android, when I say resource manager, it means we have some non-coding resources. We will be keeping the resources in RES folder in Android. Remember, we will be going ahead when we will talk about this RES. RES are very important whenever we are talking about a mobile application development or web application development. It means we are talking about certain static resources which are always required. For example, in case text to web development, we need the resources like CSS, we need the resource like images, we need the resources like JavaScript files. Similarly, in case of Android, we need some non-code resources, maybe which strings, graphics, layouts, etc. We need to have, again, at a framework, we need notification manager. When we talk about notification manager, it means we are going to display the notifications. Like the moment you get an alert, if say, for example, on this Zoom app, I am getting an alert, somebody is in my waiting queue, I'm getting a notification. Notification is becoming one of the important concept nowadays, and it is supported with by operating system like Android is one. Okay, so if an Android is supporting the notification, almost every app, although you can manage the notification, and this is done through notification manager, like you are going to silent some group for 1 week, 1 month, it's all basically done through the application framework. It's the support from the operating system through notification manager. Then we have the concept of activity manager, which is going to manage the activity life cycle. Going ahead, this is a view how basically we are going to design interface. We can have a horizontal, vertical arrangement. We can have a grid view. We can have a data text. We can have a list. We can have a browser. Like these are some of the possibilities in context to view manager. Similarly, these are some of the possibilities in context to notification manager. These are some of the possibilities relating to the location. Obviously, the location manager is responsible to manage your location, how this GPS is working, how you are getting the coordinates, longitude and latitude from the device. When the moment you register your device with Google, obviously it starts getting data regarding the location if you have enabled the GPS on your device. So the location manager is keeping track on your data. So it keeps on getting the data and updating, obviously, the Google server for the same. The third layer in this case is the libraries. It means how basically Android functionality through Linux in order to support something. And what that something, it means it is having some set of C++ libraries, it is some set of Java files, Java packages, and what those packages are all about. If I think of this, I have WebKit, FreeType, SSL, what this is. This may seem some jargon to you in the beginning, because obviously when you are shifting to a technical world like mobile application development, if you have no idea about operating system, becomes very difficult. Believe me, but at the later stage, when you start using these buzzwords, they become a common convention for you, and you feel that you can go ahead with the things. Okay, the more you explore yourself on these keywords, okay, the more obviously comfortable with these words you will be. Obviously, if I talk about these libraries, going ahead with the next slide, so we have number one, media library. As the name signifies, media, it means this is a library which is supporting the different audio and video formats. Then surface manager, related to display, how the display is managed. SGL, OpenGL, it means these are again some graphic libraries which are responsible for cross-platform, and again they are the libraries which are facilitating you with the very good quality 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional computer graphics. So remember, when you are going to build a 3D game or 2D game, in mobiles, then definitely you need a support for OpenGL. Okay. Then we have SQLite. We have SQL, concept of SQL in other, you can say in other language contexts. We say SQL is a structured query language. We have MySQL database. Similarly, we have a specialized database for mobile devices that is named as SQLite. So SQLite is a library which is supporting the database. We have a free type library which is supporting the font for Android devices. See, because we are shifting from laptop to a mobile, an entirely a small device where you are supposed to get the same functionality as that of a laptop. It means you need a corresponding engines available for you. If you have noticed, if we go back by again, I'm relating it with the history. Like for example, if you go back by 10 years or 15 years when we had no smartphones, we were having this Java enabled, these Nokia phones, you might have noticed browsing internet was a tedious job. So when this Android, so as a smartphone, this Android operating system was rewritten, we had a web browser engine that is called as WebKit. This WebKit is again a web browser engine which is specially customized for browsing internet over the smart devices. So this WebKit support is there. And moving further, we have SSL. Everybody knows nowadays SSL is one of the very popular, you can say, and that is secure socket layer. So whenever you are going to make a transaction even on the internet, if you are using HTTPS, it means you are on the secure socket layer and you can work with the transactions and you are in the safe environment. Okay. So then we
Sir, may I ask you something? Sir, which operating system we were using at Nokia time? Nokia में हम कौन सा operating system use कर रहे थे?
Nokia time, beta, we were using, Nokia was having their own operating system that was Symbian OS. That was Symbian, Symbian. Symbian. We had two variants of Symbian. One was Symbian 40 and Symbian 60. So we had these two operating system which was there with the Nokia devices. They were not having all this stuff. See, for example, when you're going to create an operating system, that's basically, when I say I'm building an Android system, we are building a solution from the scratch. That's why if they had started Samsung, this OHA, Open Handset Alliance, started thinking from the scratch, they were looking for that there is a scope for development in the mobile. It was a thought process of Andy Rubin at that time in 2003, although his thought process failed. But when it was launched with a new, you can say, face from the Google Alliance, OHA, which was consisting of 40 plus companies, including Google, Samsung, Hutch at that time. So they came up with entirely a new idea. Okay, this you can say operating system revolutionized the way the things were working. Okay, so any other question? We will definitely be entertaining questions at the end of the session. No worries. You can keep your questions with us. I will be answering your questions definitely. So going ahead, let me. Yeah, this is fine now. I want the screen to be visible to you all. So now we think of runtime. See, if we have an architecture, applications done, Android framework done, library done, then what is this? This is Android runtime. When we say Android runtime, we are talking about number one, we are talking about some virtual machine, that how the programs are running, how the apps are running. Okay, so how the apps are running, we say an Android, in Android we have C++ core language support. We have a Java code. For running the Java code, we have the concept of Java virtual machine. So if we can build an app in Java, then why not JVM? Why DVM? DVM is basically a Dalvik virtual machine, which is customized especially for mobile devices. Again, if we look at the features with the DVM, it's a register-based virtual machine. It's designed specifically for like the people who are with the computer system architecture background. They might be knowing it in a better way. If we have something which is memory based and which is register based. The register based things are obviously the faster one. So we can, these PVM can run multiple instances of the app simultaneously. It is taking the advantage of the Linux environment for supporting the multiple threads and the memory management. And along with it, it's using the core libraries which are there to write your Android applications using Java language or Kotlin. I will talk about this Kotlin as well. So we all know what a Java is. Java is a programming language designed by Sun Microsystems, later on acquired by Oracle. Then Google have introduced its own language that is named as Kotlin. Again, Kotlin is based on Java. So if you have a better background in Java, only then you can think of opting for the Kotlin. So as a beginner, looking directly for Kotlin is something challenging. And the last layer in this case is the Linux kernel. Linux kernel is your core operating system. At the core level, this Linux kernel, just a minute, let me, we have more additions to the list. So at the core level, we have the direct interaction with the hardware from the operating system side. So if we define what a Linux kernel is, it's the heart of Android architecture. It's providing you with so many drivers. What drivers? Display drivers, GPS driver, camera driver, Bluetooth drivers, audio drivers, memory divider drivers, etc., which all are helping you to actually run the applications and making a better use of the resources. So obviously, if it's an OS, it is providing you with the number of features, like it's providing you the security, it is providing you the memory management, it's providing you network stack, it's providing you driver model. It means driver model means what? When you are building a driver, you are ensuring that you are following the standards which are required for the devices. For example, we ensure, like, just for example, we say this is an ISO certified. It means it is supposed to be a certain, follow certain standards. Similarly, when we are making certain drivers in Linux, we ensure that it will work for all operating systems which are Linux based. Okay, so this was a theory part. So far, I have covered two small components. Number one, a history or the flavors of Android, ABC of Android, starting from A up to Android 12 now. Then we have discussed with the Android architecture, which is again a 4-layer stack, which includes the different layers like application framework, libraries, and then Linux kernel. Now we are switching to the third section of the presentation, which is installing and downloading and installing Android Studio. So what an Android Studio is. See, now we are coming bit to the practical aspects. Okay, so far what I have covered is the basic theory which is required. Obviously, theory may be a little bit boring, but definitely, but we can't go without the theory. This is a prerequisite. We need to know about the history, how we have come from day back from 2003 to 2021, and now what we have with us. We are having so much in Android application development nowadays. Even if I say, some people claim that we can teach to app development to the student of 5th class, 4th class, what it is. We'll come to that point as well. Okay, so what here in this MSDC, we are looking for the core application development from the root, not from the third-party applications, whereby you have something which is a predefined CMS where you keep on putting the values to the properties and you are ready with an app. It is just, you can say, customization of the things, nothing else. That is not a real mobile application development. Okay, So we need a real application development. If we need a real application development, we will be looking for an IDE, that is integrated development environment. And for building Android application, we have one of the best IDE, that is Android Studio. This Android Studio is based on IntelliJ IDEA. This IntelliJ IDEA is an editor which is provided by a company named JetBrains. JetBrains is a company which is very, you can say, popular for building these IDEs, especially editors. If I say, they have PyCharm for Python development, they have IntelliJ IDEA for Java development, like they have various popular IDEs. Okay, so this Android Studio is based on IntelliJ IDEA as a base code editor and development tools. And initially, if we think of Android development with Android Studio, it has become so easy nowadays. But earlier, if you go back again, we had another popular IDEs in the market for Java that includes IntelliJ IDEA, Eclipse, and NetBeans. If people were developing earlier with Eclipse, but for that they had to install Android Development Toolkit plugin, ADT plugin. So then they were able to build the Android application, but that was a very tedious job. That's why we had a number of developers for you can say mobile application very less. So, but now with Android Studio, the things have become so easy relatively. Obviously, as compared to web development, mobile application development is a challenging job, but still now with Android Studio, the things have become so easier. Let me tell you, if you have a basic idea about the Java programming language, if you have a basic idea about if I say general computer science, then you can easily start with the mobile application development. If you are a semester 2 student, you can start with the development. Obviously, if you are a non-computer background student, it is a bit challenging. For that, you have to initially get the lessons on what a computer science is, what is programming language, and then you can go with the mobile application development. So installing Android Studio is one of the easiest job. I'm not going in details. I have simply taken a screenshots for you. You can go through these screenshots. You will come to know, you will agree with me that this is just installing a normal software. All you need to do is simply open google.co.in, type in download Android Studio in the search bar. The moment you type in download Android Studio, the very next screen that you are shown with the first one, that is developer.android.com. See, remember, I always recommend my students, whenever you are going for any software, always download it from the official website. Okay, so Android developers.android.com is the official website from the Google. Okay, so we are going ahead with the official link. The moment we click on the official link for this download Android Studio, we are redirected to this website, which looks like this. Okay, you will get it, no problem. Okay, so the moment you click over here, you first link, you are redirected to this page. Here, as you can see, download Android Studio link is there. It's the latest one is 4.2.1. I still remember when I started developing Android applications, it was way back, say if I go back at least 6-7 years back. So it was at that time, it was 1.4.2. Okay, it was basically the variant. Now it is, we have Android Studio 4.2.1. Okay, so if we go ahead, we are given to agree with some terms and conditions. So simply accept these terms and conditions, then you will be allowed to download this installer, this Android Studio installer, which is worth 920 MB. Okay, maybe nowadays we have 960 MB, approximately 1 GB. Okay, so remember, one thing I would like to make it very clear, that Android Studio is a resource hungry program. when I say resource hungry program, it means you often find that there are updates, there are new, you can say, plugins available. So many things are available. It keeps on sometimes downloading something from the internet. So whenever you are going to go for mobile application development, we recommend that you have a better quality internet connection with you. Because if you don't have a better quality internet connection with you, then obviously the use of Android Studio becomes, you can say, a challenging job. Okay, so we recommend that you have a dedicated Wi-Fi connection with you, okay, which is at least 10 Mbps or 5 Mbps connection is recommended. Although you can go for any latest and you can say options for Wi-Fi. So installing the Android Studio is quite easy job. It's just like next, nothing to worry about. Simply the moment you click on the installer, you are redirected with the first page, then click simply next, and then you go with the defaults, clicking next component, selecting the location where you want to install your Android Studio, simple click next, then go with the Android Studio install option, and then it will start installing Android Studio. And finally, you see this button that shows that your installation is complete and you can go ahead with the starting of Android Studio. The moment you click that you are ready with Install Studio and you want to insert, see if you have checked this one, if you have checked this checkbox, definitely when you finish, you will see the Android Studio screen. And this one is something which will appear when you start with Android Studio. Okay, so as I discussed, this Kotlin, what a Kotlin is, I would like to discuss something about Kotlin here. Google officially, like on May 7, 2019, Google officially announced this Kotlin as an official language for mobile app development. But you have a choice. You can either go for Java or you can go for the Kotlin as a preferred language for your mobile application development. Again, the choice is yours. Okay, so going ahead, now we are done with the installation part. So once we are done with the installation part, now it is a time when we need to start with the building an application in the Android Studio. This is a Hello World application. Okay, the purpose of showing you how to make use of the Android Studio, a Hello World application, is just to check out that everything is fine. Okay, means all the installation is fine. So for that, what we need to do is simply we click on Android Studio and we are with the first screen. I will show you in the practical section as well that how all this happens, how you can basically go with the application development. I have taken some screenshots in order to give you a first look at how this application development works. Okay, you simply install the Android Studio, click on this. The first option appears is this screen, which gives you the options. Again, you can explore a lot on this. See, for example, you can create a new project, you can open an existing project like we do with other IDs. We simply go with the create a new project. The moment we click create on a new project, or we can configure, like for example, so many configurations are there, not going into these details at this stage. Okay, we simply go with the create new project option, and then we are given with the list of possibilities. See, for example, what we are going to build, whether we are going to build a location based, whether we are going to create a setting activity, what kind of activity, what an activity. Definitely we will talk about screen. Means the moment you create an app, you are basically creating a screen. And this creating a screen, in case of web development, we say we are going to create a page. We are going to create a page. What your website is, it is a collection of pages. But in case of app, it is a collection of activities. Nowadays, obviously, we are going for the other concept, that is a concept of fragments. that we'll discuss later, but we think just an activity as a page. Okay, one activity, one page. Okay, we can add n activities to create an n page, n activity, obviously n activities in one app. Okay, again, the choice is yours, that how we are going ahead. So here we will choose, first of all, see, for example, on the left hand side, you see phone and tablet. It means you are going to build an app for telephone, mobile phones or tablets, or you are going to build an application for Android watch. You are going to for Android television, for Android automotive, Android car, Android IoT. What you are going to build for, accordingly, you will be selecting from this choice. So I'm going with the first option, that is phone and tablet. So once we are done with phone and tablet, we'll go with the empty activity. See here, we have an empty activity here. It means we want to create a blank page. Okay, and we'll customize it according to our requirement. So we'll go with the blank activity. Then it will ask you to name that activity. Okay, this is just like a project field. So we are going to name your activity. What it is? By default, it is my application. I can give it a name. For example, I am going to say email app, WhatsApp, whatever you name it. For example, I am creating WhatsApp. I will say WhatsApp. Okay, I'm going to create a Facebook. I will say Facebook. Then package name. Package name should be unique. Obviously, when you are going to launch it on Google Play Store. So your package name should be unique. What should be the package name? It should prefix with your company name. For example, if your company name is, suppose, Microsoft, it should be com.microsoft.whatsapp, like this, all in small case. Obviously, this is the package name. This is very required. Initially, we are in the development stage. We will build the development version of the Android app. Then we will be creating the release version. Release version is the version which is ready to be uploaded on the Google Play Store, remember. So initially we are in the debug state. So we will be having the initial version, and then we will have the release version. So we are creating saving the location by default, whatever location is, we'll go for with the defaults. And the language, you have either Java or Kotlin, we'll go with the default. And then we have minimum SDK. Minimum SDK, it means whether you want your device to have the support for. We will go for that. At least it will support on Java, Jelly Bean, sorry. So Jelly Bean is the minimum API. That's basically approximately API 16. Now we have API 30. Oh, so it will run on the mobile devices, which are in the range of API 16 to API 30. So it means your app is going to cater 99.8% of Android users. We'll click with finish. The moment we click with finish, so we have two components of any application. Remember, one is the Java code and another is the XML code. Okay. See, in case of those who are with the web development background, they will be agree with me on this front that when we are going to build an mobile, say, web application, one, we have an HTML where we have the presentation layer where we are going to create the UI. And on the backend side, we have something like PHP, which is going to dynamically create my content, which is having the business logic, whereby we are putting everything, okay, which is going to work for dynamic content creation. Similarly, here in this application, we have the Java code. This Java code is responsible for driving your XML, and this XML is for UI creation. So you will be creating the content with the XML, not HTML. Remember, in web application development, you use HTML for the UI design, but in case of Android, we use XML for UI creation. So we create UI along with XML in Android. Remember, this is very important. Okay, so the moment we are done with, I'm not changing any. I'm going with the boilerplate code. When I say boilerplate code, it means whatever is given to you by default from the Android Studio. So we are going with the default. We are not making any change. This is given by IDE to us. So by default, we are going with the code here. We simply want to run the application. The moment we have done with this code, okay, this is created automatically by the Android Studio for us. All we need to do is, in order to run the application, we will click on the run menu and then run app. So the moment we click on run app, automatically it will look for some device. See, for example, again, the question here comes that which device? We need, obviously, need an Android device. From where to get that device? Android Studio has an built-in Android virtual device. We can configure it. We can configure an Android virtual device, whereby we are configuring a mobile phone inside our Windows operating system. So if you are configuring some operating system inside some another operating system, because obviously when we say Android is an operating system. So if it is an operating system, it means what we are doing basically, you might have learned about dual boot installation. We have Windows at the bottom, that we on the top layer we can install Linux. Similarly, we can have window at the bottom, Windows, and then we can install at the top an Android, which is a Linux based operating system. So it means somehow we are trying to use the concept of virtualization. So, and this one, even Android Studio is using the concept to create the device for us by using the resources. When I say the resources, definitely when we are going to install the Android Studio on our machine, we have some prerequisites. Obviously, we need to have the laptop with at least 4 GB RAM, and recommended is 8 GB RAM. So when I say 8 GB RAM recommended, it means when we are going to create a mobile phone inside the Windows, maybe that I am creating a mobile phone which is having 4 GB RAM. So when I say I'm trying to create a 4 GB RAM mobile inside my this, it means if the picture that you look at this one is a mobile phone which is created in my laptop, which is an Android virtual device. This mobile is having the 4 GB RAM, and this 4 GB RAM which it is using is basically actually the 4 GB RAM out of my laptop's 16 GB RAM. If my laptop is having 16 GB RAM, then out of that 4 GB is being used by this virtual device. Okay. If, for example, for any reason, I don't have a laptop with the, say, this much RAM, I have a laptop with the 4 GB RAM and I want to test an application, there are solutions for that as well. We'll come to that point in the next presentation, obviously. Okay. So we have some solutions whereby we can attach our physical device as well. Okay. So here, when we run this, our default emulator is configured here and it will show us this app in execution. And this app is basically showing us my Hello World app, which was the name of the application. And this is showing the Hello World message. Okay. This is showing us the Hello World message, which we have given somewhere here in the XML, this side on the left hand side. If you see on the movement of my cursor, this is the Android colon text Hello World. Okay. So this is the Hello World, which is shown here, just like the normal Hello World application that we create with the Java or C, C++ or something like that. Okay. Then going ahead, see, this is the another, you can say, if you don't have the 4 GB or 8 GB RAM laptop with you, what you can do, what else you have with you? We have the various possibilities for the same. We can control your Android device from your PC. This is the same nowadays. This is not a new concept. This concept was new way back 5 years. Nowadays, we often have smart TVs. We often have all this mirroring concepts. We are now very familiar with this mirroring concepts. So this mirroring concept, earlier it was very new to us when we started attaching our device to the laptop. But nowadays, this is very common. So a number of applications are available which help you to create mirroring of your mobile. For example, one such application is Visor. Visor again is a tool which is used to mirror your mobile. What you need to do is you need to connect your mobile along with the USB cable, and you will be able to mirror your screen. What the advantage of this scheme is that you need not to have the 8 GB or 12 GB or 16 GB RAM. All you need to do is with the 4 GB RAM, you can run your Android Studio. In order to test your application, you will be testing it with the real device. And you can see the device mirrored on your screen as well if you want. Other than Visor, we have two other popular tools. One is a Power Mirror and another is Mobigen. Both are screen mirroring tools. All you need to do is, in order to download the Visor, you simply click, first of all, select the operating system and then select on the download. You are given with the Visor tool. Once you have installed this Visor tool on your laptop, now you need to configure your mobile, which is an attached mobile device. For the same, you have to set the developer options for your mobile. This is one of the, again, a new thing which the developers do. You might have learned from, you might have heard from some people saying, oh, I have rooted my phone, I am a developer. Okay, I am a developer. It means my USB debugging options are enabled. So what all this is? When I say I'm not a developer, I have developer option disabled, then it means I'm basically a normal person. I'm not a developer. I'm not making any changes to my device, real device. But when you make your developer options on, then you become able to play with your mobile. How we can enable the USB debugging? USB debugging help you to connect your your PC with your device. And if you are able to enable USB debugging, you are able to communicate with your phone and PC, obviously PC or laptop, whatever it is. Or I have specifically given for my mobile, mine is Xiaomi Redmi Note 9 Pro. So I have given the options for the same, but if you are using the Samsung phone, you may have the different sequence of you can say options, but mostly whenever you click on your settings of your mobile phone, then you click on the version or Android version 7 to 10 times, you are given whether the developer mode enabled. Once you have this developer mode enabled, then you are able to see on your phone that you are a developer now, and then you can follow some sequence, that is you will see the option USB debugging and you can check that box. Basically you can switch that on, means if you move that towards the right, you see debugging on, and towards left it is off. That's debugging, USB debugging off. So you have to enable the USB debugging. But remember, when you are going to connect a mobile, a physical device with your laptop, again, mirroring is not directly supported. Mirroring is not something that you attach and it is done. Basically, nowadays, when we go for the latest, these Android-based televisions, most of the things are provided by the manufacturer to us. And we see the mirroring as a very handy job. But if you are with having some older device, then you have to configure something for